Wrestling Alliance, where we help you to elevate your grappling, and then together we keep real wrestling alive. Thank you very much for listening or watching on our YouTube channel or Twitch, or listening to basically wherever podcasts are available. I think we should be there. Maybe, I hope. Um, but anyway, so we got some cool news coming up. So we're pretty much close to solidifying the next catch wrestling event. So um, it'll probably be the end of September or the right at the beginning of October. Just scheduling that right now, but yeah, we should have several matches. So don't know the matches yet, or we don't know like the names of people who are going to be competing yet. But at least we're getting the date set and the venue and all that. So that should be coming up like within a few weeks, really, because it's already like the end of August. So giving people about a month to prepare, and then the matches should be like pretty good. And I think we should be having everything's still up in the air, but we should have some people that who've competed before, men's matches and women's matches. So should be pretty exciting. People who have been training for a little while now, who've been wanting to compete. So that should be great. And the other thing is like, so right now, if anybody wants to train, if anybody's in LA, the LA area, feel free to come train. We're always at Fight Science MMA. Our UCLA class is on summer break right now, so that's going to start also around the end of September. That's when they go back to school. So they have a few weeks off, and then we'll be back at UCLA for our catch wrestling program, as well as our kickboxing. And this time we're going to be adding the Chinese wrestling. So the Chinese, they call it traditional Chinese wrestling. It's where they wear like a vest, like a jacket. But in a way, like I personally don't, or I like to call it traditional Chinese jacket wrestling, because China is such a large country, and they have different like different ethnic groups, or different, actually, like native tribes and stuff, that are nations that have their own wrestling traditions, and they don't all involve the jackets, and they don't all end when you take someone down. There's a wide variety. So, like, I don't know if anybody saw. So, several years right before COVID, I was in southern China, closer to Vietnam, and I was competing in their wrestling tournaments. And so then the native people in the Yunnan province, their traditional wrestling is a lot closer to freestyle wrestling. So they so it's not just, you don't wrestle to just take someone down. You wrestle, take someone down, and try to pin them. All right, they don't have submissions in that style, but it's still a continuous style, which I prefer over freestyle, since they're always blowing the whistle. There's all these different stand up things and points and all that. So at least the traditional style of the E people, in that region, it's continuous. So anyway, so that's why I usually like to clarify traditional Chinese jacket wrestling. So they asked if I could. It seems like there's interest, and so they asked if I could teach that style. So along with the catch wrestling, we'll be introducing that. So hopefully that is successful. Um, but we'll see. So you'll probably see some some highlight videos from there. All right. So um, first things first, we already have a comment from Kareem Davis Films. Thank you for watching. And he said, "Thank you for your videos. Very helpful. Greetings from Ireland." Oh, yeah. No, awesome. I'm sure you're in a very beautiful location right now. I've only stopped in the airport um, in Ireland on the way to Wigan, but the even from the windows in the airport, everything just looked beautiful. So hopefully you're in a very beautiful part of Ireland right now. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and get to the main things, because I've been thinking about this. You've seen us talk about some of the sumo competitions, like the pro sumo in Japan, and we kind of highlighted some of the wrestlers and some of the moves. So I kind of wanted to like put together some of the main takeaways from sumo that I think are valuable for people who are doing not only catch wrestling but all types of wrestling. You know, regardless if it's like jujitsu or whatever. So something you can kind of take away that maybe could help you. So this could be a little bit of a technique, a little bit of a strategy thing, and a little bit of mindset. So these are the three main takeaways. So we'll go over that like right now. Okay. So, but feel free to make comments and or let me know your observations or whatever. Totally fine. So these are at least three main takeaways in my opinion. Right. So number one, purely technical, right? So it is the importance of having a good stance, right? So your stance is of utmost importance, right? So in sumo, of course, you're always seeing them work on their stance, or then even doing those big like leg raises and all that, or like keeping a squatted stance and pushing across the it's called like the dohyo, their stage. Um, so the main things, I know this sounds like very very simple, but it's going to pay dividends. So not only just like when you're standing or trying to get a takedown, or but also when you are like, say if you've taken them down and you're on top of the person, right? If you're like, say, too leaning too far over their body, they can easily roll you forward. Or if maybe if you're too far back, then they can overcome you and like go on top of you, reverse you, so in certain ways. So um, the stance, whether it be like the footwork when you're standing up or when you're actually back onto the mat, is something that you really want to pay attention to, because then it'll help prevent you from finding yourself in like difficult situations to escape from, right? So it's always, like say in catch wrestling, it'll be more of a staggered stance. Also, actually in sumo wrestling too, it's like they will start like a little bit more square, like American football players when they're kind of squatting and they're right about to try to hit each other. Um, it'll kind of start off like that, but then instantly it'll switch to a staggered stance. So you have like one leg forward, one leg back, and then you can try to maneuver the other person, or you can try to maneuver around the other person. So it's always about keeping a good balance where you're not leaning too far forward, not leaning too far back, so you can't get pushed around or pulled around easily. Right. So then the same thing applies for when you're uh, on the mat over them, right? Okay, so that was a pretty simple one, but now let's get to the second point that I think is very important, or very important lessons to learn from sumo wrestling. Number two, decisiveness, right? So the vast majority of sumo matches last less than, well, probably even like 30 seconds, but definitely less than a minute, right? So the main thing is they're not just like slamming into each other and then seeing if someone falls down or pushing someone out, right? So the main thing is like once you actually make that initial contact, then you have to follow through with whatever decision you make based on the information that they're giving you, right? So you chances are they're going to try to disorient you, right? At least in pro sumo, they're going to be slapping your face, really trying to hit you to get you upright. All the stuff is part of that whole decisiveness thing. Like how are you going to approach the match? And once you make a decision, you have to follow through, right? So sometimes you might lose or whatever, but the main thing is that like that when you see these people in sumo wrestling, since the match is so short, you see the outcomes of these decisions, but chances are if you're more passive, then you're just going to get pushed out or thrown or whatever. So you have to work on that defense and offense at the same time, and just follow through with whatever kind of comes to you. So one of the main things that, or the main quotes that I usually try to tell my students is one from the legendary catch wrestling coach Billy Riley from Wigan, right? So his gym was originally called like was it Riley's Gym of Physical Culture in Wigan, and the quote from him is that like If you're in a match and you think of doing some move, then it's already too late to do that move, right? So if you're uh, feeling, or you're in there and you're not just moving, you're not reacting, then chances are your opponent has the opportunity to counter you, throw you down, push you out, whatever, right? So how do you get better at being decisive? A lot of times it's just focusing on like the fundamental moves, the basics. So in catch wrestling, of course, like all the mat wrestling stuff, the sit outs, the sit throughs, um, the different, like say like we like to call it the far elbow, or like it has all these kinds of names in the United States, right? So sometimes people call it like the side roll, or all these like fundamental moves. You have to really be proficient at that, and also the other idea of staying off your back. So once you kind of put these or once you've kind of like ingrained these ideas, these fundamental ways of doing catch wrestling into your body, then it becomes a little bit easier, or at least you'll have kind of parameters where if you're in a match, you know where not to go, right? You know to not go onto your back. You'll know that if they get you in a headlock and pull you down, you can do a sit through, or if they get behind you on the mat, then you can usually sit out or whatever. So it's not just trying to resist them with all your might and trying to like be turtled up, or like your head down and be in like in your hands and stuff like that. um, that is like that's not the decisions you want to be making in a match. But the whole thing about decisiveness, yeah, you have to have kind of like some foundational or some foundation of knowledge in the style, and then you can make better decisions when you're in a match. Yeah, so that's the whole idea of decisiveness. But like say like in sumo wrestling, you're gonna see like uh, they even kind of break up the wrestlers into different categories. Like some they call like pusher thrusters. Like so the guys who they've already decided like when I enter the match, I'm going to like be slapping your face, pushing you back, trying to push you out, because of course that's one way to win. Then there'll be the guys who want to grab your belt and throw you. So these are kind of like the two main camps in sumo. So at least they've already made that decision. Like they found out what was good, what worked better for them, or what they're better at, and then so they already have like that framework, right? So they're going to then build and work from there. So they'll start, and then they'll try to implement their game plan, and depending on how the other person reacts, then they're just going to try to execute to the best of their ability, but not like they're not going to be waiting around, like because they really don't have that time, because they're the circle in their ring is very very small, and they're actually usually pretty large guys. So if they get pushed around too much, they're just going to be pushed out. So you have to be decisive on getting your grips, or getting your hands in their face, right, to push them away, or to even slap them, and sometimes they get knocked out. So um, you got to be decisive, right? So even if they're implementing their game plan and getting the better of you, you have to be decisive and follow through with your counters. Otherwise, yeah, you'll lose. In catch wrestling, we since we either have like a 20-minute time limit, or traditionally how they didn't have time limits, you can kind of linger a little bit. um, so you can kind of maybe try to like use the whole strategy of getting them tired and all that. That's part of catch wrestling, but still that would still be part of the decisiveness, because you would know to how to counter and how to not get pinned and stuff, so that you can then implement that whole idea of getting someone tired, so that you can beat them later. So all that stuff is under that decisiveness thing. So it's like you've you've gotten the information, and you quickly just go with kind of like that gut reaction, and you follow through with it. So that's something that you can see a lot in sumo wrestling. And I think it's something that you can take for your improvement in grappling or whatever kind of wrestling or whatever grappling you do. All right, so the next one. All right, a loss isn't the end of the world. All right, so this is one of my favorite things about sumo wrestling. Is so like um maybe you'll see like I'll say like in pro MMA, right? So uh one fighter won't necessarily fight many times in a year. Maybe they'll fight, like twice, maybe three times. Um depending on like the promotion and stuff like that. So for many reasons, right? Like they can get concussions and all that, so they would need extra time to heal and whatnot. But either way, you're not necessarily seeing them competing all the time. But in professional sumo wrestling, each event is actually 15 days long. So every wrestler has one match every day. So the way they get a winner is whoever has the winningest record at the end of the tournament. So it's not necessarily like a tournament where it's like you people get knocked out and then they all work to have like a final, like what like we just had the World Cup or whatever, where it's like everyone's trying to get to the semifinals and finals. It's not exactly like that. It's whoever wins the most. So you can go in and maybe lose a couple matches and still win the whole thing. So in that way, it's like it just helps you to realize that it's like you might lose today, but you still got to be competing tomorrow. So you got to try to move on or try to not let one loss or a couple losses be like the end of the world to you. And I think that's like a very, very important lesson that like really everyone needs to know, especially if you're competing, right? Because one loss isn't the end of the world, and you have another match tomorrow. And then say like in grappling too, since you don't really have to experience like all the head trauma as a lot of the striking arts and stuff. So you can be competing, and if you compete in say like a jiu-jitsu tournament and you don't win, just try to think of it as like that's how you were that day. And so many things go into how you perform in a one specific day, right? So don't make it like your whole identity. Like don't let it bring you down, basically, because so many things go into like your win or loss that day. Anything can kind of throw you off. So don't beat yourself up, really, because you can always compete again. And in sumo, you have to do the 15 days. I mean, you can pull out like if you get injured or whatever, but um, most of them will complete the 15 days. And I really think that's pretty awesome, because um, you'll have like competitors who they'll have a record against each other, right? So say if you have two competitors, chances are if they've been uh, in the pros for a few years, then they would have faced the same person several times, and then they'll have a record of like wins and losses against each other. And so, say if you've lost to somebody, it can give you motivation to come back and figure them out to try to beat them. So so main thing is one loss is not the end of the world. It's absolutely not the end of the world. So I think this is one of the greatest things that you will see from sumo. So even the guy I put as the thumbnail, the sumo wrestler holding the big cup, it's called the Emperor's Cup. But when you win the tournament, um, his name is or his fighting name is Hakuho. He's this Mongolian wrestler. He's actually the greatest sumo wrestler of all time. He's like the winningest guy. But he has several losses. So like, don't feel like you have to be perfect. All right, and so he's lost to some of the most random people. All right, so um, just don't like don't be so hard on yourself, right? All right, so those are kind of like the main three. Let me go ahead and just like recap real quick. So, first one, importance of having a good stance, right? So it's gonna go a long way for whether you get thrown or not, right? So stance, super important. The second one, decisiveness. Try to get your fundamental moves so ingrained in you, so that like when you actually encounter someone when they're trying to attack you, your muscle reaction would probably be a better like educated move or a better educated counter to however they're attacking or whatever. So that's part of the decisiveness, right? So it's not just moving, but moving intelligently without having to think about it too much. Then number three, a loss isn't the end of the world. That's why I really enjoy watching sumo, because also too it's like, because the tournaments are so long, you actually get to see like some of your favorite people like battling like many times. Say, unlike pro MMA where it's like you'll see your favorite fighter fight maybe once or twice a year or something like that. um in sumo, even though like I'm sure they get a lot of like brain damage or like hitting a lot of, they hit their heads a lot, where the initial slam, and then if you're up against someone who's like a pusher thruster, they're always like thrusting their palms into your face and stuff like that. So I'm sure they can take a lot of damage to their brain or whatever, but they're competing a lot. So anyway, you can build up all this in a way, kind of like stories behind these people that you might like, the drama behind all their like their training, and how like maybe they were kind of more of a losing fighter and then they come back, years later and stuff like that, where there can be a lot of drama in that way. So it's really enjoyable to watch. Of course, I don't want anybody to have like brain trauma or whatever, but um, the sport's still going to be there, and I think it's really interesting. So hopefully you can learn something from it, because I think it's exciting personally. All right, let's go ahead and get to some of the questions or the comments. Oh, Kareem Davis, I must leave now, but thank you for the valuable information and insight into sumo. Don't know much about it. So nice to hear a catch wrestler's perspective. I look forward to more. Blessed day to you. Yeah, blessed day to you too. Dumb username. You caught the live stream. Hey, yeah, thanks. Let me see. Let me see. So Japan was really promoting sumo in the media the past few years. Yeah, it could be kind of like something to show, like maybe some of their traditional stuff, because like it's exciting. So they really they really should promote it. It is very popular though already. I mean, a lot of times in the events, like the all the stands are packed with people. I personally would like to like go watch some matches live one day. All right. Oh, so the latest Baki manga was about sumo. All right, might as well check that one. We can check that one out, and then we can break down some of the techniques from there. Oh, is that also animated yet? If it is, that'd be cool, because we can show you the moves and then break them down. All right. Once you know the rules of sumo, or once you know the rules, sumo becomes interesting. Yes. So it is very simple. Like either you push the person out of the ring or you throw them down, or basically if any part of their body besides the bottoms of your feet touch the ground, you lost. Right, so it is one of these kind of throw down or push out wrestling styles, but quite often you'll see them use the what I call the quarter Nelson, right? So the quarter Nelson technique. So like if someone's rushing in and they're trying to like grab around your waist, maybe throw you down. The way the person uses like the standing quarter, or yeah, the standing quarter Nelson would be they get the overhook, all right, and then they push the person's head down, and so they get that quarter Nelson, that figure. I don't know if you get that figure four position, and they've thrown people. It's so cool. So that's one of the things where I kind of consider like the part of the decisiveness aspect. The quarter Nelson, in my opinion, I really like it. I've used it to great effect, and even in in jujitsu sparring and stuff. So I teach it to my students here at Fight Science MMA and also UCLA. Is it's such a cool move. Of course, everything you got to practice it so that it becomes part of like your muscle memory. So it can be a good decision like once someone comes around side of you and you can get that overhook and you can roll them over. It's pretty awesome. Because basically it's like once you get the position and you follow through, and you've caught them off guard, they'll get tossed. So like in sumo, you'll see like these massive dudes just getting tossed with the quarter Nelson. And I'm sure they're not calling it that, but I forgot. Oh, actually, they do have a name for it in Japanese. It's not whatever they might call it in judo, right? So they have different names, and um, I'll try to look it up. Let me see. So the anime doesn't do it justice. The manga is better. Yeah, always, right? We'll check it out though. If sumo had weight classes, it'd be more popular, I think. Yeah, maybe. And also the other thing though too is like, and if they had women doing it too, then because there's already like women who want to do it, but that's the unfortunate thing. I believe that like through tradition, like they don't even allow women on to touch the stage, which is unfortunate. They gotta, they gotta make it more like say like if you're thinking about like being an Olympic sport and stuff like that. One of the criterias to become an Olympic sport is that men and women do the matches. So you gotta be more inclusive. So you can have weight divisions and it will in international amateur sumo competition. They do have weight divisions, and so I competed in in the United States Sumo Open, and but they're quite large weight division. I think it's like 20 or 30 pound weight divisions. So um, you'll have, you'll still be, if you're the smaller guy in your division, you'll be going up against much larger people. Um, but still, yeah, they have international like amateur competition, and those will be, you know, like the so they're popular enough, and maybe they can elevate some of the even smaller guys. So yeah, they could try. They could try. Thoughts on karate? Let me see. Takeru man. Thoughts on karate not being in the Olympics? Yeah, that's the one thing about like these combat sports. Um, they'll that one of the main excuses is from the Olympic Committee is that like, oh, we have taekwondo or we have boxing, and so it's going to be harder for the striking arts to get in. Because I know, say like China wanted to get the what's it called, like Sanda in, right? So the Chinese kickboxing that I like, um, they they wanted to get it in. I think especially like was it around the Olympics, the Beijing Olympics that they had, but I think it was just an exhibition sport. And unfortunately, it's like they do have world competition for Sanda, like they have the world championships, they have regional championships, and all that. So it's all there, all the structures in place. People around the world do it, men and women, and all that. But then pretty soon the Olympics can be saturated with all these kickboxing styles, and so they usually try to shy away from having too much. Yeah. So yeah, we have karate combat now, so you can maybe watch that. CJ, love me some sumo. Yeah, me too. I'm sure the next tournament should be coming up within the next few weeks. So, do you know enough of the wrestlers to predict who might who might take it this time? Any good books about the history of catch wrestling and how it got merged with jiu-jitsu and luta libre? Um, well, the main history book, um, of course, is the one that came out of Wigan about the the main coach, Billy Riley. You should probably check that out because it kind of gives you a lot of the like main wrestlers that are never spoken about unless you actually know about them. Like, are you training Wigan and stuff? That's always really good. Um, but it's catch wrestling didn't necessarily merge with jiu-jitsu or luta libre. So the people who brought luta, or who, to Brazil, they had, like, it sounds like they had a varied background in grappling and wrestling and stuff. So they kind of put that together, and so that's why, like, nowadays, if you see luta, many are trying to connect it to catch wrestling. But a lot of the modern people are doing, like, basically just like modern no-gi grappling. So totally disregarding the pin and all that. So it doesn't really look like catch wrestling. It is it is disappointing that sumo is sort of seen as a joke in the West. Yeah, I think, kind of going back to your earlier post about, like, once you know the rules, it's really interesting. Yeah, like, not only the rules, but once you know, like, the structure of their tournaments, like the 15-day tournament is really cool. It really brings up the drama, right? It's like, who's gonna, like, say if someone's starting off really strong, like winning every match, doesn't mean that they're gonna, like, be perfect the whole time and win all 15 matches and take it. No, a lot of times, like, they might start strong, and then the fatigue can make them lose, or all different things can make you lose. So it's also, like, that's part of the drama because it is so easy to lose in sumo. Or say, like, if someone starts off losing a couple matches, they might rally and win every following match. So then they end up winning the whole tournament and stuff like that. Like, it makes it really exciting to watch. Hopefully, the Netflix sumo show will bring more interest. Let me know what that's called, though, too, and I'll try to check it out. Gotta go. We'll watch and comment later. All the best, and thanks for keeping real wrestling alive. Yeah, thank you, CJ. Thank you for watching and commenting. It's all appreciated. The Billy Riley book. You refer, yeah, the Man, the Legacy. So that one actually mentioned me. So I'm in the history books, which is a huge honor. But yeah, that one's on, like, Amazon and all that. Um, the sumo show is called Sanctuary. Okay, cool. Thank you. We'll check that out. And also check out the manga anime. But if there is some cool thing that they animated, it's any video, or maybe, yeah, I don't know if, like, maybe we can even show, like, a still image from a manga of it. Then they can do some breakdowns on that. So yeah, I'll check that out too, because I like sumo wrestling. All right. So, did you learn anything from our little talk today? Hopefully, I think, the main 3 points kind of broke it down. Was thinking about it for a while, and those are some of the three main points um, that I could think of that could possibly help you in your grappling. It's like you have, like, the technical stuff, good stance, doesn't let you get pulled or pushed or thrown around easily, and can be applied on the ground, on the mat. If you're over your person too much, they can roll you forward. If you're too far back away from them, they can push you backwards. And so the other thing would be, like, the decisiveness, right? So once you've built up a good foundation understanding of the principles of catch wrestling, then you'll know, like, you'll have these parameters that will keep you kind of it'll kind of be your like your guard, like, yeah, your north star, or guide you through a match. And and so then you'll make better informed decisions as to how to counter their counter, right? um and then, of course, like, if you lose, don't beat yourself up. because you can compete again, right? So like I know here I live in the Los Angeles area, and like there are um, like always like jujitsu tournaments. It's like almost every weekend, if not actually not probably almost. It probably is every weekend. From more well-known ones to small ones and stuff like some. There are many like even in-house tournaments, so you can go compete at someone's gym and all that. Yeah. Hinomaru Hinomaru Sumo is a sumo anime. It's pretty good. Clips all over YouTube. All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check that one out then. If you think that one's pretty good, and especially if they have some really cool animation of the moves, you can totally do some breakdowns on that. And we'll definitely like anything that can like really blend into like the catch wrestling. Yeah, definitely we will break it down. Cool. All right. So hopefully you learned a lot, and let me know what you think of the three main points that I I put my thinking cap on and meditated in a cave, and this is what I came up with. I didn't quite do that, but thought about it for a little while. So if there's any other points from sumo that inspire you, or that you think maybe can help others become better at grappling, go ahead and put in the comments. Let me know. So it'd be great to hear what you think. Um, Let me see. Dumb username. The oldest footage of sumo is on YouTube as well. It's called Historical Sumo. We're not fat. Very interesting. So, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it's just a really cool style. So, yeah, and kind of goes back to your point earlier where you mentioned like if they had more weight divisions and stuff, then you get a lot of people doing it. Posture and balance. Balance is important. If lose balance, it's very easy to capitalize for an opponent. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah. Thoughts on bone locks? Use of slippery use to use on a slippery opponent. Yeah, when you're sweaty or whatever, or in the Turkish wrestling and stuff like that. Yeah, you have to find ways to keep someone from slipping out. So you have you got to go accordingly, right? So quite often that's like the good thing about like some of these figure four holds and stuff like the double wrist lock and all that. Sumo is a standing wrestling style. It's cool in itself. Yep, definitely. I'm sure a lot of judo was derived from sumo. Potentially, yes, because sumo is older than judo, and this is one of the things I think is kind of like silly about like people who comment. Like I see it on all different kinds of grappling like social media or even on our videos or YouTube, whatever, where it's like, say if you show a throw and maybe it's like inevitable that someone will comment with the judo name for that technique, and then they seem like to be like really proud of their judo background, thinking that their style is very old, but it's actually not very old at all. And so I really don't know why they they always have to comment because uh the judo terminology in particular, it's like their own thing, and they make all their students like have to learn it, but not all of us use it. And in sumo they have their own terminology for, so like the same takedown will have one name, and the judo name will be different. So it's like I don't know, it's like it like I personally don't care if you know the judo name for anything, right? And I'm not interested in learning the judo names. I'd rather learn the sumo names. Really, actually, it's because I enjoy sumo way more. Real question: has anyone created effective striking from the ground? I'm not quite sure. A lot of times it's like pin and like ground and pound, really, right? Keep them in place so you can beat them up. Or if you think of that one UFC fight with Brock Lesnar versus Frank Mir, he got him in the we call him like stockade or shug hold, where he had his arm around the back of Brock had the arm around the back of Frank Mir's head and collected the far arm so that Mir couldn't get out, and then he was just like punching his face like that. So um, yeah, yeah, there's a lot of different things. I don't think of wrestling and striking as separate in terms of unarmed combat. No, and ideally, if you can try to like not forget that, like say if you do like MMA or something like that, or what even the combat jujitsu or the slap jujitsu, then um, yeah, you're gonna have to not forget the whole part where it's like you can slap someone like to if they're trying to put a hold on you or a submission hold, then uh, sometimes you can hit your way out or you can knock them out, right, if you're controlling them. All right. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. Maybe hopefully my inspiration that I get from watching sumo wrestling can help inspire you to become a better athlete, because one of the main things is the mental aspect. So if you don't beat up yourself, if you lose, if you just keep going out there and competing and building your foundational knowledge, you'll get better. So I just keep at it. All right. So that's the main goal, where we try to help you, elevate your grappling, and then together we keep real wrestling alive. So thank you very, very much for watching and listening. And let me know if you have any ideas for something you want to talk about next time. I'm all ears. All right. Thanks.